The Axiom Collective had transformed 17 worlds into computational matrices, their crystalline surfaces pulsing with the rhythm of quintillions of calculations per second. For 847 years, the galaxy's most brilliant mathematical species had dedicated their existence to solving the convergence equation, a formula that promised to unify quantum mechanics with macro-scale reality and revolutionize existence itself. Dr. Marcus Webb pressed his nose against the viewport of the transport shuttle, watching the impossible sight unfold before him. The axiom worlds hung in space like geometric jewels, their surfaces carved with mathematical symbols visible even from orbit. Each planet housed a fragment of the galaxy's greatest minds, all working in perfect harmony toward a single goal. "First time seeing the calculation worlds?" asked his seatmate, a six-armed Vorthic engineer whose species had contributed to the project for 3 centuries. Marcus nodded, adjusting his worn conference badge. "I still can't believe my university got invited to this symposium. We're barely a Type 0.7 civilization by galactic standards." The Vorthic's mandibles clicked in. What Marcus had learned was laughter. The Axiom Collective invites all mathematical minds, regardless of processing power, though I suspect they're getting desperate. As their shuttle descended toward the central conference habitat, a massive ring structure orbiting the primary calculation world, Marcus could see the evidence of that desperation. The habitat buzzed with representatives from hundreds of species, all contributing their unique perspectives to the centuries-old problem. It reminded him of the international mathematics conferences on Earth, except here the international aspect included beings whose thoughts moved faster than light, and others who experienced time in 11 dimensions. The docking bay was a marvel of engineering that would have impressed even Marcus's jaded colleagues back home. Gravity fields shifted smoothly to accommodate the varied physiologies of the attendees, while translation matrices ensured that mathematical concepts could be shared across species barriers. Marcus found himself walking alongside a gaseous intelligence. From the Helix Nebula, its thoughts manifesting as patterns of colored light, and a collective consciousness that spoke through a chorus of metallic spheres. Dr. Webb, a voice resonated directly in his mind, causing him to stop mid-stride. Before him materialized an axiom representative, a being that looked like a walking geometric theorem, its crystalline form shifting between dimensions as it processed thoughts too complex for 3-dimensional space. "I am Theorem Prime Alpha 7749, the being continued, its mental voice carrying undertones of calculations that made Marcus's head spin. "I have reviewed your published work on intuitive mathematics. Your approach to solving the Riemann hypothesis using geometric visualization was unconventional." Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. His paper on using finger painting techniques to visualize complex mathematical relationships had been more of a teaching tool than serious research. "I wasn't really trying to revolutionize anything. I just noticed that my students understood better when they could see the patterns." "Patterns," Theorem Prime Alpha 7749 repeated, the word carrying strange harmonics. "Yes, this is why you are here. The convergence equation has resisted our logical approaches for nearly a millennium. Perhaps your species' unusual cognitive architecture might provide new insights." As they walked through the habitat's corridors, Marcus was struck by how much the place reminded him of the academic conferences he'd attended on Earth. Despite the exotic attendees, there were the same small groups huddled in intense discussion, the same mixture of excitement and frustration, the same coffee well, the galactic equivalent fueling late-night breakthrough sessions. The main auditorium was a sphere within. A sphere, its walls displaying the convergence equation in formats adapted for every species present. For Marcus, it appeared as familiar mathematical notation, but he could see others experiencing it as musical harmonies, geometric sculptures, or complex scent patterns. "The equation is beautiful," Marcus murmured, studying the display. "But it's also ... Impossible, finished theorem prime alpha 7749. Yes, this is our paradox. The mathematics are perfect, yet they lead to contradiction. We have verified every step millions of times. The equation should work, yet it does not. Marcus squinted at the display, his mind automatically translating the abstract symbols into the visual patterns that had always made sense to him. Something about the structure nagged at him a familiar feeling, like trying to remember a song he'd heard in childhood. What if, he said slowly, you're asking the wrong question? The axiom being's form shifted, geometries realigning as it processed this possibility. Around them, conversations quieted as other attendees began to listen. The equation assumes convergence, Marcus continued, his voice gaining confidence. But what if the universe doesn't actually converge? What if quantum and macro aren't separate? States waiting to be unified, but different perspectives on the same continuous loop. The auditorium fell silent. In that moment, Marcus Webb, a small-town professor who'd never won a major mathematics prize, had just challenged the fundamental assumption that had driven centuries of galactic research. Asterisk. The Axiom Collective's emergency session convened. In the Habitat's central chamber, a space where the greatest minds in the galaxy gathered to witness something unprecedented. Marcus found himself at the center of a circle of beings whose individual intelligence exceeded that of entire civilizations, all focused on the human who'd questioned their basic assumptions. Elaborate on this continuous loop concept, requested. Theorem prime alpha 7749. Its crystalline form pulsing with heightened activity. Marcus looked around the chamber, feeling suddenly overwhelmed. The Vorthic engineer gave him an encouraging gesture with two of his arms. A collective consciousness of energy beings hummed expectantly. Even the gaseous intelligence from the Helix Nebula had condensed into a more focused form, its thoughts, creating aurora patterns in the air. I need to think about this visually, Marcus said, reaching into his jacket for a pen. He found a napkin left over from the shuttle's meal service and spread it on the central display table. Mind if I draw? The assembled geniuses beings who had spent centuries crafting equations in 11-dimensional space leaned forward to watch a human scribble on a piece of paper. Marcus drew a simple circle first. This is how we usually think about the universe bounded. Finite, with clear inside and outside parameters. He added arrows around the circle's perimeter. But what if reality isn't like that? His pen moved across the napkin, creating a figure eight lying on its side. What if it's more like this, Mobius strip? No true beginning or end, just continuous transformation. He traced the path with his finger. If you travel along the surface, you eventually return to your starting point, but you've experienced both sides of reality. Dr. Helix 9, a cybernetic intelligence whose thoughts moved at near light speed, interjected with a burst of rapid calculations. The mathematical implications would mean that quantum uncertainty and macro-scale determinism are not opposing forces, but complementary aspects of a single system. Exactly, Marcus said, his excitement growing. And if that's true, then the convergence equation isn't unsolvable. It's been trying to solve the wrong problem. You've been looking for the point where A meets B, but what if A and B are the same thing seen from different angles? He drew another shape, a spiral, that seemed to fold in on itself. My daughter used to make these with her friendship bracelets. She'd twist the threads so that what looked like separate colors were actually one continuous strand. The pattern only made sense when you stopped trying to find where one color ended and another began. The chamber erupted in a symphony of alien communication. The Vorthic engineer's 6 arms gestured wildly as he translated the concept into his species gestural mathematics. The collective consciousness began singing in harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. Even the stoic axiom beings showed signs of excitement, their crystalline forms shifting through configurations that Marcus suspected were the equivalent of jumping up and down. Dr. Webb, Theorem Prime Alpha 7749's mental voice carried a note of something that might have been wonder. Your daughter's bracelet technique, can you demonstrate the mathematical principles? Marcus laughed, a sound that seemed strange in the chamber of cosmic intellects. I don't think I can explain it mathematically. I just see it. Like when you look at clouds and see faces, or when you hear a melody and know how it should end before it does. This statement caused another stir. A being that resembled a walking equation, all flowing numbers and symbolic relationships, approached the table. You perceive mathematical relationships as patterns rather than logical sequences? I guess so, Marcus said, still drawing on. The napkin. When I was a kid, I used to lie on the grass and watch ant colonies. The individual ants seemed chaotic, but the colony as a whole had this beautiful, purposeful pattern. Maybe reality is like that chaos, and order aren't opposites. They're different scales of the same dance. Marcus hesitated, then began moving his pen across the napkin in flowing curves that seemed to breathe on the paper. It's not really drawing, he said. It's more like following a path that already exists. The math isn't something you create, it's something you discover. As he drew, the alien minds around him began to see something revolutionary. The human wasn't solving their equation through superior logic or processing power. He was approaching it through intuition, cognitive process that their advanced civilizations had optimized away centuries ago in favor of pure rational thought. The equation isn't unsolvable, Marcus said, completing his sketch. It's just been waiting for someone to ask it the right question. The napkin now bore a complex pattern of interwoven shapes, each connected to the others in ways that suggested infinite depth. To Marcus, it looked like a doodle he might have made in a college lecture hall. To the greatest minds in the galaxy, it looked like the key to everything. The Habitat's Central Cafe had been transformed into an impromptu research laboratory, with Marcus's napkin displayed in the center of a holographic analysis field. Beings from across the galaxy huddled around tables, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of discovery. The air itself seemed to hum with possibility. Dr. L.R. Voss, a human xenobiologist who'd been attending the conference to study alien mathematical cognition, approached Marcus with 2 cups of what passed for coffee in galactic society. I've been watching the proceedings, she said, settling into a chair that adjusted itself to human proportions. What you've done here is remarkable, but I'm not sure you realize why. Marcus accepted the coffee gratefully, noting that it actually tasted decent, despite being synthesized from base elements. I'm still trying to figure out what I did. Half the beings here are treating me like I just discovered fire, and the other half are looking at me like I'm a curiosity. Both reactions are appropriate, Ilara said with a smile. I've spent 15 years studying how different species approach problem solving. Most advanced civilizations develop along similar paths. They enhance their logical processing, eliminate cognitive biases, and optimize for pure rational thought. They become incredibly efficient at solving known types of problems. At the next table, a group of crystalline scholars from the prism worlds were attempting to recreate Marcus's drawing technique, their geometric forms shifting as they tried to understand the concept of intuitive flow. Their efforts produced mathematically perfect spirals, but somehow lacked the organic quality of Marcus's original sketch. But here's the thing, Alara continued. In optimizing for logical efficiency, they've eliminated something humans still possess: the ability to make creative leaps, to see patterns that logic alone can't reveal. What you call just seeing it is actually a form of pattern recognition that operates below conscious awareness. Marcus watched as Theorem Prime Alpha 7749 approached their table, its crystalline form accompanied by a spherical being that introduced. itself as a probability engine from the Nexus Collective. The engine's surface displayed constantly shifting equations as it processed the implications of the Napkin sketch. Dr. Webb, the engine's voice was like wind chimes in a storm. We have been analyzing your visual representation. The pattern suggests that quantum uncertainty and macroscale determinism exist in a state of dynamic equilibrium, not opposing forces, but complementary aspects of a self-organizing system. Like a jazz ensemble, Marcus said without thinking. Each musician is improvising, but they're all following the same underlying rhythm. The music emerges from the interaction. The probability engine's surface flickered with new calculations. Jazz ... Yes, this is a form of ordered chaos. Mathematical improvisation within defined parameters. We have no equivalent in our cultural matrices. A new voice joined the conversation. Commander Zara Okafor, a human military liaison who'd been sent to observe the conference for Earth's Strategic Defense Initiative. Dr. Webb, I've been authorized to inform you that your work here has implications beyond pure mathematics. If this equation can be solved, it could revolutionize faster-than-light travel, possibly even allow for instantaneous communication across galactic distances. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. I was just doodling on a napkin. I didn't mean to start an arms race. Not an arms race. Theorem Prime Alpha 7749 interjected, its mental voice carrying reassurance. The Axiom Collective has established protocols for discoveries of this magnitude. Any breakthrough will be shared freely among all species. We have learned that hoarding knowledge leads to stagnation. Dr. Kevin Su, a quantum physicist from the Lunar Research Station, had been quietly observing from a corner table. He approached the group with a tablet displaying complex calculations. I've been running simulations based on your napkin sketch. The mathematics are starting to align in ways that should be impossible. But there's something else, something that might explain why only a human could see this pattern. He activated his tablet's holographic display, showing brain scans of various species. Most advanced civilizations develop enhanced neural architectures that process information in linear, hierarchical sequences. They think in trees root concepts, branching into increasingly specific applications. But human brains, especially those engaged in creative thinking, operate more like networks. Random connections, associative leaps, pattern recognition that bypasses logical sequence. The display showed a human brain during creative problem-solving, neural pathways lighting up in seemingly chaotic patterns that somehow resolved into coherent solutions. Your neural activity when drawing that sketch resembles quantum wave functions collapsing into definite states. It's as if your brain naturally operates on the same principles as the universe itself. Around the cafe, the implications began to sink in. The Axiom Collective, for all their computational power, had been trying to solve the universe's deepest mysteries using the wrong kind of intelligence. They needed the very cognitive flaws that they had evolved beyond the ability to make intuitive leaps, to see patterns in chaos, to trust processes that couldn't be logically justified. Dr. Webb, prime equation absolute's ancient consciousness touched Marcus's mind. We propose a collaboration. The Axiom Collective will provide computational resources to test your insights, while you provide the intuitive framework that has eluded us for centuries. Together, we may solve not just the convergence equation, but unlock principles that govern reality itself. Marcus looked around the cafe at the assembled minds beings whose intelligence spanned galaxies and whose civilizations had thrived for millions of years. They were offering to learn from him, a small-town professor who'd never published a major breakthrough. I accept, he said, then paused. But I have one condition. Whatever we discover, we share it freely. No patents, no proprietary technology. If we're going to unlock the secrets of reality, it should benefit everyone. The gesture, a human insisting on open-source universal knowledge, sparked approving reactions from around the cafe. Perhaps, Marcus thought, that was another difference between human and alien intelligence. The instinct to share discoveries rather than hoard them. The real adventure was just beginning. Asterisk. The Axiom Collective had converted an entire section of the habitat into what they called the synthesis chamber of space, where human intuition could interface with alien computational power. Marcus found himself at the center of a technological marvel that would have impressed the greatest minds of Earth, yet felt as natural as sitting in his home office. The chamber had been designed around his working preferences, learned through careful observation of his thought patterns. Soft lighting mimicked the afternoon sun streaming through his office windows. The air carried the faint scent of coffee and old books. Even the chairs were Earth-standard furniture, transported at considerable expense from his university. The key is not to think too hard, Marcus explained to his audience of galactic geniuses. When I try to force solutions, they slip away. But when I let my mind wander, patterns emerge naturally. Dr. Nick 7742, a cybernetic consciousness from the machine worlds, had been assigned as his primary collaborator. Unlike the pure logic entities of the Axiom Collective, an IX 7742 had retained some elements of creative processing, a trait that had made them something of an outsider in their own civilization. Dr. Webb, Nick 7742's voice, carried through speakers designed to produce sound rather than direct neural communication. Our computational arrays have been analyzing your napkin sketch for 18 hours. The pattern you drew appears to be a two-dimensional representation of an 11-dimensional mathematical structure. How did you visualize something that exists beyond human perception? Marcus leaned back in his chair, doodling absently on a fresh napkin. I don't think I visualized it at all. I just ... followed the line where it wanted to go. Like when you're walking a dog and you let them choose the path. The dog might not understand the destination, but they know how to get there. Around the chamber, alien minds struggled with this concept. The Vorthic engineer who'd befriended Marcus on the shuttle attempted to replicate the dog-walking approach, his 6 arms moving in seemingly random patterns over a drawing surface. The results were geometrically perfect, but lacked the organic flow of Marcus's original sketch. Perhaps, suggested Dr. Voss, who'd been studying the human contingent's problem-solving approaches, the key isn't in the conscious mind at all. Dr. Webb, when you drew that pattern, what were you thinking about? Marcus paused, his pen hovering over the napkin. Actually, I was thinking about my daughter's school play. She was nervous about forgetting her lines, so I told her to trust that the words would come naturally if she just stayed in character. I was wondering if mathematics works the same way, if you trust the process instead of trying to control it. This statement caused a sensation in the chamber. Prime equation absolutes consciousness focused intently on Marcus, its ancient awareness probing the implications of this revelation. You were not actively solving the equation, the entity observed. You were allowing the equation to solve itself through you. This suggests that consciousness and reality might be more intertwined than we have theorized. Commander Okafor, who'd been monitoring the proceedings for Earth's interests, stepped forward. Dr. Webb, I need to ask, are you aware of what you're describing? If consciousness can directly interface with mathematical reality, the implications for technology, for understanding the universe itself, are staggering. Marcus set down his pen and looked at the assembled beings. I don't think I'm describing anything that revolutionary. Artists have always known that creativity involves getting out of your own way. Musicians talk about becoming the music. Athletes describe being in the zone where performance becomes effortless. Maybe solving the universe's deepest mysteries isn't about thinking harder, it's about thinking differently. The probability engine from the Nexus Collective chimed in its surface displaying cascading equations. Dr. Webb, we have detected quantum fluctuations in the local space-time whenever you engage in this intuitive problem-solving. It appears that your consciousness creates brief resonances with the underlying mathematical structure of reality. That's impossible, Dr. Sue protested. Consciousness can't directly affect quantum mechanics at macro scales. But decoherence. If X alone would what? Marcus interrupted gently. Would make it impossible according to current understanding? But what if current understanding is missing something? What if consciousness isn't separate from the universe, but part of its fundamental operating system? He began drawing again, this time with his eyes closed. The pen moved across the napkin in smooth, confident strokes, creating patterns that seemed to pulse with their own rhythm. The quantum sensors in the chamber began detecting unprecedented fluctuations in local spacetime. Dr. Webb, theorem prime alpha 7749's mental voice carried a note of amazement. The equation is responding. The calculations that have resisted solution for centuries are beginning to align with your drawings. It's as if the mathematics recognizes your approach and is adapting to work with it. Marcus opened his eyes to find the chamber transformed. The air itself seemed to shimmer with visible equations, mathematical relationships made manifest through the interaction between human consciousness and alien computation. His napkin sketch had become a three-dimensional hologram that rotated slowly, each aspect revealing new layers of complexity. I think, Marcus said quietly, we're not just solving the convergence equation. We're discovering something much more fundamental, that intelligence and reality are collaborators in the cosmic dance. The universe isn't just something we study. It's something we participate in. Dr. Voss nodded slowly. The implications are staggering. If consciousness can interface directly with mathematical reality, then every sentient being in the universe is potentially a co-creator of existence. Itself, the chamber fell silent as the full weight of this revelation settled over the assembled minds. They had come seeking a solution to an ancient equation, but they had found something far more profound, a new understanding of the relationship between consciousness and Cosmos Dot, and at the center of it all, a small-town professor from Earth continued to doodle on a napkin, trusting that the universe would show him where the lines wanted to go. Asterisk, 3 days after the breakthrough, the entire galactic community had gathered to witness the first practical test of the convergence equation. Solution. The Axiom Collective had constructed a massive experimental apparatus in the habitats. Central Bay, a device that would either revolutionize faster-than-light travel or create a localized spacetime. Catastrophe. Marcus stood before the assembled representatives, feeling the weight of their collective attention. Beings from 1,000 worlds had come to see if a human's napkin sketch could unlock the secrets of reality itself. The apparatus hummed with barely contained energy, its crystalline components resonating with the mathematical patterns he had drawn. The theory is sound, announced Dr. Sue, reading from a tablet displaying calculations that would have taken Earth's fastest computers centuries to process. The convergence equation, when approached through Dr. Webb's intuitive framework, predicts stable wormhole formation with minimal energy requirements. But theory and practice are different things. Commander Okafor approached Marcus with a secure communication device. Dr. Webb, I've just received word from Earth. The implications of your discovery have reached the highest levels of government. They're requesting that you consider the geopolitical ramifications before proceeding. Marcus looked at the device, then at the assembled aliens who had welcomed him as a colleague rather than a curiosity. Commander, with respect, this isn't about geopolitics anymore. This is about what we've learned about the nature of consciousness itself. That knowledge belongs to everyone. Theorem prime alpha 7749 projected its consciousness into the space near Marcus, its crystalline form shimmering with approval. The human speaks wisdom. The Axiom Collective has adopted protocols to ensure that breakthroughs of this magnitude benefit all sentient species. We have learned that consciousness cannot be owned or controlled. It can only be shared. Dr. Voss had been monitoring the quantum fluctuations around Marcus throughout the conference. "I've been analyzing the data," she said, activating a holographic display. Every time Dr. Webb engages in intuitive problem-solving, the local quantum field exhibits patterns that mirror the mathematical structures he draws. It's as if his consciousness is tuning into the universe's fundamental frequencies. The probability engine from the Nexus Collective chimed in, its surface displaying complex wave equations. "We have detected similar resonances in other creative individuals throughout the galaxy. Artists, musicians, even children at play, they all create brief harmonics with the underlying mathematical structure of reality. Dr. Webb's breakthrough is not unique to humans. It is a potential that exists in all conscious beings." This revelation sent ripples of excitement through the assembled crowd. If consciousness could directly interface with mathematical reality, then every species in the galaxy possessed untapped potential for discovery and creation. "Shall we proceed with the test?" asked Prime Equation Absolute, its ancient consciousness focused on the experimental apparatus. Marcus nodded, then approached the device's control interface. Instead of the complex control systems he'd expected, the Axiom Collective had provided a simple drawing surface, a place where he could sketch the patterns that would guide the experiment. Asterisk. "Just like the napkin," he murmured, beginning to draw. But this time, he wasn't working alone. Around the chamber, other beings began to contribute their own perspectives. The Vorthic engineer added gestural mathematics with his 6 arms. The collective consciousness from the energy beings contributed harmonics that made the air itself sing. Even the Stoic crystalline scholars offered their geometric insights. The drawing became a collaboration between dozens of species, each contributing their unique way of understanding mathematical relationships. Marcus found himself in the role of conductor, guiding the cosmic symphony of intelligence toward a unified solution. "It's beautiful," Dr. Voss whispered, watching the collaborative creation unfold. "Every species sees the same mathematical truth, but each expresses it in their own way. The equation isn't just being solved, it's being performed." The apparatus began to respond, its crystalline components aligning with the multi-species mathematical performance. Space-time itself seemed to bend around the device, creating a stable wormhole that connected the habitat to a distant star system. "Successful wormhole formation," announced Dr. Sue, his voice filled with awe. "The connection is stable and requires minimal energy to maintain. The convergence equation doesn't just work, it's elegant." As the assembled beings celebrated their collective triumph, Marcus realized that they had discovered something far more significant than faster than light. Travel. They had learned that consciousness and cosmos were partners in the dance of existence, that intelligence was not separate from the universe, but woven into its very fabric. Dr. Webb, Prime Equation Absolute's consciousness, touched his mind one final time. "Your species has given the galaxy a great gift. Not just the solution to our equation, but a reminder that the universe is more than the sum of its parts. It is a living system that responds to consciousness, creativity, and collaboration." Marcus looked around the chamber at the diverse beings who had become his colleagues and friends. "I think the real gift came from working together. No one species could have solved this alone. We needed every perspective, every way of thinking, every form of consciousness represented here." The wormhole continued to pulse with stable energy, a testament to the power of collaborative intelligence. But more than that, it stood as proof that the universe itself was conscious, responsive, and eager to share its secrets with those who approached it with open minds and creative hearts. As the celebration continued around him, Marcus pulled out one final napkin and began to sketch. not because he had another universe-shaking insight, but because he had learned that the act of creation itself was a form of prayer, a way of participating in the cosmic conversation that connected all conscious beings. The universe, he realized, was not a problem to be solved, but a symphony to be performed, and every conscious being was both musician and audience in the grand performance of existence. His sketch on this last napkin was simple: a circle containing all the beings in the chamber, connected by flowing lines that suggested infinite possibility. It was his way of saying thank you to the universe for allowing him to be part of its eternal dance of discovery. In the end, the equation that had stumped the galaxy's greatest minds for centuries had been solved not through superior processing, power, or advanced logic, but through the simple human act of trusting that the universe wanted to be understood, and that consciousness and cosmos were partners in the beautiful, eternal conversation of existence. Asterisk.